Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Monday Night Must See TV with the Hudson Valley Squares. It's Album Wars once again, part three, I guess you could say. Let me introduce the crew. We got Count Ralph is here, Ralph Tambora in the house. Ryan Scow is here. Our center square, Mr. Butch Jones.
Hey,
Mr. Butch. Craig Kaminsky's in the house. Rob Lasante's in the house. And we haven't seen him on the squares in a while. I figured I'd give him a call. I know he's been wanting to come back on. Mr. Jim Bakke is in the house. What's up, Jim?
hey,
Got my Rush mustard with me.
There you go. Rush.
The
Rush
pretzel
Mustard.
with me.
He's got the new Max Boogie Overdrive album is out.
Yeah.
Something to be excited about. Good stuff, Jim. So let's introduce the combatants for this particular album war here. These are third albums, classic third albums from these bands. We've got Toys in the Attic from Aerosmith, 1974. We got Let There Be Rock from acdc, 1977. We've got Love It to Death by Alice Cooper, 1971. And then from 1975, In Trance by the Scorpions.
isn't Toy 75 too?
Yeah. 75? Did I say 74?
Yeah.
75. Yeah. You are right. Sorry.
Close enough.
Yeah, close enough. I think we could all agree these are all classic albums. And as always, we're going to kind of rank them. I'm going to keep score. We are going to announce a winner at the end of the episode. So, and as we've been doing, every person that goes will rank them in the order. So tell me your number one, or your number four, your number three, number two, and number one. And I'll be keeping track. And then we'll announce a winner at the end of the episode. So, Ralph, we'll start off with you, my friend.
Okay, so yeah, number four. This is an album that I never owned, and I feel like I should have owned it, but I just never really seen it growing up, and none of my friends had it. And I've mentioned this before when we talked about this band on this channel, but the Scorpions In Trance, great album. If I would have gotten it back in the day, it'd probably be one of my favorite albums by them. Some really awesome songs. I love that Round and Round song that they do on that. And Dark Lady's great. Claus's vocals with the screams. It's really amazing. A lot of great leads throughout this album. Really heavy for 1975 there. I would have loved it back then, for sure, if I was a kid getting this back then. But yeah, I just never got it. I looked into buying it a couple times, and it was always kind of expensive. I never come around finding it used or anything. But yeah, because it's my least familiar one, I'm gonna have to put that at number four. Aerosmith, Toys in the Attic, the title track, classic. It was the most successful album they released, sold over 9 million. Huge hits with like Walk This Way. I got a old 7-inch single of it. Come Together, Beatles cover on the other side. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sweet Emotion and Walk This Way was such a big songs for this album, but some deep cuts like Round and Round. That's what I meant for the Aerosmith song, not the Scorpions. But Adam to Apples, another great one. But yeah, this is a great album. Love it. Love going back and listening to it again. But I got to put it at number three. Then number two, this is where it gets hard. When I first thought about these four, I kind of did it exactly. It didn't change around like the other two episodes we did. But this one, it almost changed for me. But then in the end, I had to go with my number one being number one. But I'm going with Alice Cooper. Little Alice figure here. Yeah, I'm 18, Caught in a Dream, Black Juju, Is It My Body? And one of my favorite Alice Cooper songs is the Ballad of Dwight Fry. It's such a great classic. It goes great with their whole stage show and everything. When I was a kid, the first time seeing them, when Megadeth was playing with them at the Civic Center in Poughkeepsie, when they did this song, they put Alice in a straitjacket and they bring him out and tortured him with the nurse and everything, injecting him with a big giant needle and stuff. And I've always loved that song since then. Really, maybe my favorite Alice Cooper album. I never really thought about it. He's got so many albums, but as I was listening to this week, it was like every song was great. I thought, really love it. The number one, acdc, Let There Be Rock. I mean, so much energy and power. every song on here. One of my favorite all time ACDC songs is Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be. And I always remember on the Black Ice tour seeing them, and everybody was wearing those like lit up devil horns, and they put all the lights out at Giant Stadium, and it was like thousands and thousands of people with the horns. And then that song started. One of the coolest concert experiences I ever remember. Yeah, number one, ACDC. That's it.
All right. We're off to a good start. All right, Ryan, what's happening?
Oh, well, I'll be honest with you, Pete. When you said this one, I was really debating how to go about this because two of these albums I love. One of them I like a lot, but like Ralph said, I didn't get it until later on. So, it just kind of affects your opinion of it. And one of them, I'll be honest with you, I'd rather step on a fucking bed of nails. So I will open with that. So there's some classic bands that everybody likes that I don't like. Everybody has their own taste, but to me, it's not really fun to just crap on famous bands. And so unless the topic comes up, I don't like Queen, but unless we're talking about the band, why even mention it? It just seems kind of cheap, I guess. But that said, I do not like Aerosmith at all. None of it. I just fucking hate it. I don't like this album at all. I heard it. I went back and listened to it twice, and I couldn't get through the whole thing. Just not my thing. So instead of mentioning that, I will mention some things I'd rather do besides listen to Aerosmith. I'd rather duct tape stakes to my thighs and go tickle mountain lions. I'd rather floss with barbed wire. Sorry. I'd rather say to Mike Tyson, what the fuck is up with that tattoo anyways? I'd rather run barefoot at night through the Lego factory. I'd rather wait in line all day at the DMV and then realize when I got to the counter, I forgot one of the forms. I'd rather pay taxes. It's to me, listening to the band is like going into the fridge to get a swig of milk and you realize the milk went bad 5 days ago. And I just mentioned it, but I'd rather listen to Queen. So to me, I don't like the band. I give it a shot. People, I go check out this song. I don't know. I put in the time. I don't like it. So moving on. Number 3 is In Trance, and it's for the same reason Ralph said. Even though I've been listening to the Scorpions for a long time, I kind of found it hard to find that album for some reason. I didn't bother looking up what labels it was released on or when it was released in Europe versus the States, but I have it. But by the time I got it, I'd already been listening to Blackout and Virgin Killer and Taken by Force and so many other ones for quite a few years. So even though it's a great album, it's the album where they transition from more of a krautrock 70s psych rock kind of prog rock band to what we all love them for. And it's a great transition, and Uli's leads are fucking awesome. But just because it wasn't gonna displace Taken by Force as my favorite Scorpions album. And Virgin Killer, Love Drive, right up there for the number 2 and 3 spots. So great album, but that's number 3 for me. And that's just like Ralph said, just purely by when you hear something. Sometimes your favorites are already solidified. Number 2 and number 1, I'm actually going to go in the same order that Ralph did. Similar reasons, Alice Cooper, same deal. They went from that Frank Zappa-ish, kind of cool, but just not money. But I don't think anybody's favorite Alice Cooper albums. Whole different ballgame here. This is one of those albums to me that's foundational for heavy metal. The songs are great. Obviously, Ballad of Joy Fry is fucking classic. I'm 18. Probably his most famous song to this day. Is it my favorite Alice Cooper album? I don't know. Top 3. Killer, maybe. $1 Billion Babies kind of edge it out on some days, but it's great. And I do listen to it a lot. But number 1 had to be acdc. And whenever this album comes up, one of the first things that comes to my mind is the fucking guitar tone. So, not only does Angus and Malcolm got to get a lot of credit, but their older brother, George Young, who produced the album. This is one of the top, I'm not talking about the playing, just the tone. One of the top 3 tones on all rock and metal. It just sounds so fucking incendiary. It's intense. The leads are amazing. Obviously, their playing's great, but man, the album just hits a ton of bricks. It's produced so well. It's got so much power. The title track is you cannot listen to that song and stay still. It's not fucking possible. A whole lot of Rosie, even more. It's just relentless energy. But it's not really heavy metal. It's just like good bluesy rock and roll. It's just 97,000 octane rock and roll. So to me, it's my favorite AC/DC album. I think Powerage would be kind of a number 2, but Let There Be Rock is always usually the one I go to first. So when you actually mentioned, when there was some confusion about what's really their third album between Australia and, the American version, and you said, no, we're going to do this. I'm like, good, because that is definitely my favorite album. And all their albums with Bon Scott and even some of the ones with Brian are fucking great. But this one, and the cover is great too. Is hands down my favorite AC/DC. I throw it on all the time. It's good. Summer drinking album, driving album, anything, good party album. It just kind of fits all moods. It's just one of those like universally classic album, always puts you in a good mood. So AC/DC is definitely number 1 for the.
All right. Well, AC/DC has jumped out ahead. Butch, where are you sit with these 4?
Alice Cooper number 4, AC/DC number 3, Scorps number 2, and Aerosmith Toys in the Attic is number 1.
All right.
Uh-oh.
All right. Greg?
All right, thanks. I quite like all 4 of these albums myself, but as they say, somebody's got to come in fourth, and I like me some Uli John Roth also, but I went with In Trance as my number 4, and kind of I think they got better as they went along, and Virgin Killer improves upon this, Taken by Force improves upon that. So first album with their logo, with the rollerball movie font and everything. My version is a blue spec CD imported from Japan. Woo, fancy, and sounds great. But I have this at the bottom because I think there's a few snoozers on this, like Night Lights and Living and Dying and Evening Wind, but the rockers are great. Robot Man and Dark Lady, so is a classic, top of the bill. Love that one. But there's just some slower ones that aren't my fave. My number 3, I went with Alice Cooper's Love It to Death. Love Caught in a Dream and Long Way to Go, but then there's still some that there's a few songs that still kind of sound like his first 2 albums, like Black Juju and Sun Arise. That it still has that old timey, I don't know, like a hippie-ish type sound, which isn't my favorite, but Isn't My Body is lyrically is just, I think, is one of his best songs. I love it. And that one comes in as my number 3. My number 2, I went with Aerosmith's Toys in the Attic. Love the title track. That's a barn burner. Round and Round is a really, really great song. No More, No More. The deep tracks in this are good. Walk This Way and Sweet Emotion are a little bit overplayed, over time, but you can't deny that they're great songs. And Tyler's delivery of those songs was probably pretty groundbreaking in 1975 with the manner that he sang those and everything. And there's still fun songs to listen to today. I absolutely despise Big 10-inch record on this, though, and I wish that song was not on this. I hate that song with a passion. And You See Me Crying is not a favorite ballad of mine, but the rest of this smokes, and I really do enjoy it. Number 1, have to go with Let There Be Rock. Title track destroys any version of that that you hear live with Bond doing it. Studio version's great too. Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be, Whole Lot of Rosie. Overdose, I love that. It sounds like they're warming up, and then the song just kind of kicks in with that. As Ryan was saying, kind of a weird sounding album with that. The albums that is bookended by it sound so nice and smooth, and they're all produced by Vanda and Young. But yet this one sounds so much rougher when you compare it to High Voltage or Dirty Deeds or Powerage. You can even hear tape hiss in some of the tracks while you're listening to it. But it sounds great. All the songs are just so much fun and hold up still today. I think a lot of these songs, I mean, even from the show, they just played recently. Quite a few songs came from this album. So it holds up still well today, and it's one of my favorites as well. Either Let There Be Rock or Powerage are my favorites from AC/DC as well.
Cool. All right. Rob?
Okay, well, like last time, pretty much the same for me. Three of them were really close, and one of them wasn't. And the one that wasn't is that one. For me, Alice Cooper, I was never a big Alice Cooper fan. Billion Dollar Babies, I love. But this album, I'm 18, Long Way to Go, Hallowed Be Thy Name, I like, and the Ballad of Dwight Frey. Those are my favorite songs off the album. I got into Alice Cooper later on. So I really never got into him when I was young, only when I got older. And I had some older friends that liked them, and I have a few friends that love Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper just never did it for me. I'm not the biggest fan. I'm not gonna lie. So, number 3 for me, got to be Scorpions. Scorpions for me. I got into Scorpions probably a little later too, probably about 76, 77. Oh, that one's too big. And but like some of the guys were saying, Evening Wind, melodic soloing on there by Yuli, and Son of My Hand, and of course Dark Lady. Most of this album is great. There's not really a bad song on it. The slow songs, the ballads, we could do without them, but they're still pretty good. And I don't know what Craig had, where Craig got his album, but I downloaded this, and it sounds so good. It definitely was remastered. I'm guessing so. But this album really introduced me into the era of Scorpions. Because Lonesome Crow was like one of my favorite albums. I love that album. But this album was a little heavier, as Ryan was talking about. This is because the first couple albums were kind of more prog, and then this is when they started to kick some ass. So that's my number 3. Number 2. Number 2. Now, I know Ryan hates this album, but I got to tell you, I was 13 years old when this came out, okay? And when this came out, I can tell you a story. I never forget it. I had the little boom box, and I had this tape on all the freaking time. This and Kiss. Those were like the 2 tapes that I was always having, back in 75. And I just love this album. Like Craig just said, I could do without the big 10-inch record. I mean, to me, that's the only downer on the whole album. Everything else is great. The harmonies on this are great. Of course, the guitar work is great from everybody. And, it's just got a lot of good memories for me of growing up, in the 70s. And I got to tell you, everybody I knew loved this album. I mean, Rocks, of course, is the masterpiece for me, but this is a great album too. And of course, number 1, AC/DC. AC/DC for me, especially with Bon Scott, was, I must have listened to this album 100 times the first week. I just, the balls that this album had, the power, like you guys were talking about, the tone, all that kind of stuff. It ranks, I don't know, it just ranks so good to me. And I remember, I don't know if you guys remember, maybe Jim and Peter know, but there was a movie they released, Let There Be Rock, and I saw that in the theater like 10 times. And it was, with Bon Scott and everything. They had it a limited release, and I saw it in a couple places in New York. Yeah, look it up.
I don't remember that. Wow.
Oh yeah, yep.
It's a good movie. Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it.
I don't have it either, but it's a great. But this album itself, and it's funny. I'm sure they remastered it, but even I remember listening to it back in the day on vinyl, and it just sounded so good. I would blast. Of course, my father would bitch at me and yell and scream. He came home, what are you doing? But hey, no, AC/DC for me is one of my favorite bands. Always has been. Kind of crossed that road because I was getting into metal in the 70s, but AC/DC felt always heavier than the hard rock, the regular hard rock stuff. It was like they were almost like a cross, even though it was kind of bluesy and stuff. They just had a lot of balls, and I just love AC/DC. And for me, and me too, this is my number 1 album from AC/DC, period. So, that's Those are my
Greg's
choices.
right. The guitar tone, it's a pretty raw recording. That's why I love it. But it's got so much fucking power to it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, ACDC's got a pretty commanding lead here that I don't think is going to be overtaken. But Jim, what say you on these four?
Okay, so surprisingly, when I was a kid getting into rock in the late 70s, I only Alice Cooper I knew is what was on the radio. I never bought the records. So I never bought Love It to Death. Today was the first time I listened to it all the way through. And I was like, wow, I was really missing something because it's a great record, man. I was just like, it's odd that, I only had a certain amount of money to spend when I was that age, in the late 70s. And, I hate for Alice to even hear me say this, but I spent all my money on the Kiss records. So, so I wasn't buying the Alice Cooper records, but that's my number 4. But I listened to it twice today. I'm like, damn, this is a fucking great record, man. It's really, really fantastic record. I'm going to listen to it more. So that is my number 4. And other than that, my list went the same as Butch. I put AC/DC third. Obviously, that album is a stone cold classic. But you got Scorpions in a number 2 spot, which if it was Love Drive, it would probably be my number 1. But it's my number 2. I do love that record. And I did, after I bought Love Drive, which was the first record I bought by the Scorpions, it was the newest one. I went back, and of course I found, Fly to the Rainbow and the other ones. This is weird because it's sort of like the transition between their like early hippie metal period and then them going to being a real heavy metal band kind of. So they're kind of in transition. Obviously it got better with Taken by Force and Virgin Killers, of course. But it's a great record. There are some slow songs on here, but like the version of Robot Man on here is amazing. So Top of the Bill, Dark Lady, In Trance, all amazing songs. So that is my number 2. And my number 1 is Aerosmith Toys in the Attic, which if it was any other Aerosmith album, it would be on the bottom of the list because I'm really not a big Aerosmith fan. I like them casually. I appreciate how great they were, back then. But this album has all of my favorite Aerosmith songs, and I'm not talking about Walk This Way and Sweet Emotion, even though I love those. No More, No More is probably my favorite Aerosmith song, followed by Adam's Apple. So, and I love Uncle Salty. Toys in the Attic is obviously great. 10-inch record was cool when you're 13, and it was kind of funny because it was a, whatever sexual innuendo thing. But yeah, it's definitely the worst song on the album. Sweet Emotion, ever since Dazed and Confused came out, and that was the beginning of the movie, that's obviously so great. But I liked it back then too. But yeah, this is the only Aerosmith record I really love. I know everyone else loves Rocks. I'm super partial to this one, and Draw the Line a little bit, but this one I really like a lot, the most. So it has all my really favorite songs on it. So that's my number 1, Toys in the Attic. So
All right. Let me read Chris Allows. He's got Alice Cooper, Love It to Death at number 4. Aerosmith Toys in the Attic at number 3. AC/DC Let There Be Rock at number 2. And number 1, Scorpions In Trance. All right.
Interesting.
Let me do mine here, but I think we have a winner anyway. My number 4, I really like all these albums a lot. There's no real loser here. They're all really, really strong. But you got to go with the ones that you play the most, the ones that mean the most to you. So I'm going to go Let There Be Rock at number 4, actually. And I'm going to go number 3 with Aerosmith. There have been times this is my favorite Aerosmith. Rocks generally is number 1, but this is pretty damn close for me. It's amazing how strong like those first 5 or 6 Aerosmith albums are. Just really, really good. There's no weak ones there, if you ask me. My number 1 and 2 is really tough. I see Steve Keel is trying to get in. Okay. I've gone back and forth with my 1 and 2. I changed it earlier today, but I think I'm going to go back on my original pick here. I'm going to go with the Scorpions in Trance, my number 2. And I'm going to go with Alice Cooper, Love It to Death, number 1. This along with Killer and $1 Billion Babies to me are classic Alice Cooper, and I generally go back and forth between the 3 of them as to which one my favorite is, and it kind of floats back and forth all the time. But yeah, that's my picks. All right, let's Steve Keeler's coming in. He's going to give his. I don't think it'll make much difference because it looks like ACDC has won this one pretty single-handedly, but
no. I was thinking about this for the last 2 minutes. I got to throw myself under the bus here. So when I opened, I talked a lot of shit about Aerosmith, but the more I thought about this, this is a band where age makes 100% of the difference, because you guys are older than me, so you got into Aerosmith during the original era. I'm 41, so I got into Aerosmith. I didn't get into Aerosmith, but I heard Aerosmith overwhelmingly on the radio from like Permanent Vacation on, Permanent Vacation, Get a Grip, and Pump. So all those like Love in an Elevator, Janie's Got a Gun, Dude Looks Like a Lady, and that fucking one song from the '98 Bruce Willis movie, Don't Want to Miss a Thing.
Oh, the Diane Warren
And
song.
it just the hatred that built in me was so intense that even people are like, no, that stuff sucks. Yeah, but go back and listen to Rocks and like all this old 70s stuff. It's great. And I got to be honest, I hated the old '80s stuff so much. Even though I generally try to be pragmatic and like, separate things, I just could never do it. I hear his voice and immediately it's just like a ice pick, just right through my skull.
I was thinking that the age thing was a big part of it.
It's you, and I was thinking about that because all the songs that you guys are mentioning, they're not bad songs at all. But it's like a Pavlovian response. You ring the little bell and the dog salivates. Like I hear his voice and I automatically, no matter what song it is, I just think of that fucking song from Armageddon, and I'm like, and I start to have seizures. So it's kind of like, it's like one bad apple poisoned the whole thing, poisoned the well. But because I felt like I slagged them like that. It's really not bad. The '70s stuff's not bad, but the later stuff, like Permanent Vacation on, when they had outside songwriters come in and they basically turned into like a pop band. To me, I think that stuff is fucking dreadful, absolutely dreadful, and that's really like what burned that intense seed of hatred in me for the band. But unfortunately, it kind of like poisoned the whole well. So, what are you gonna do?
I get it. Yeah, I don't like the later stuff either. So
I just wanted to. I felt I slagged them without like kind of like adding that little tidbit. But yeah, age in this case, age makes all the difference for that band.
In 1975, when that came out, it was super like ahead of its time in terms of.
Yeah, I could totally.
We're an American band, right? Yeah,
and I can totally appreciate and like hear that and appreciate it. But just like my ears I've been ruined. Because
I mean, if you listen to Nobody's Fault on Rocks, I mean that's why Testament covered it, because it's so heavy. It was a heavy song for 1975. I mean,
it's like in the Attic. There were very few songs that were that fast in 1975.
It's definitely a case where I can appreciate it 100%, but like my ears have just been ruined. I mean, sometimes I come around to stuff, so we'll see. But I did listen to it for this show, and I'm just like, I just could not, like, I don't know. I had that bad
big songs on this record too. Too many big radio songs on this record. I mean, a lot of them got worn out. Walk This Way is completely worn out.
That one is completely worn out.
I think a lot of people got pissed off after Run DMC came out with that too. That whole thing.
That was part of it too. And a lot of those later songs from like 87 on got such massive radio play. It's like you couldn't get away from it. So those songs really got beat to fucking death. And those songs kind of suck. So I'll be more pragmatic. I'll revisit it. But yeah, I've always had a really a tough go with that band.
So Steve Keeler made it. What's up, Steve?
What do you know? I finally showed up on a Monday night.
Cool.
I heard Butch Jones was coming, so I wanted to come visit. How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing good.
Good.
Sorry, I'm really late. It's the last minute of the show.
Yeah, well, we want your pick. Even though it looks like ACDC is basically going to win this one, but I'm curious to see how you voted here. So, what's your number 4 out of these 4, Steve?
Man, this is tough. This was really tough when I realized I was going to be able to do this today. And it was, to me, it was kind of like comparing apples to oranges, because I kind of took Alice Cooper and Aerosmith. They're in one part of my brain as more classic rock, but the AC/DC and Scorpions to me are more of a metal release. So it's tough. My number 4, unfortunately, I think it's going to be Alice Cooper, even though it's a great record. It was hard to put it at number 4, but put a gun to my head, it's number 4 right now. Cooper is. But I was listening to it a lot today, and I'm like, I don't know, how do I make this number 4? But it's such a great record. And he has a toy to go with it. Of course, Ralph does.
There's no bad records on this list, so
No, there's none. No, there's none.
you know.
What's your number
So-
3, Steve?
Number 3 is, you're gonna hate me for it, AC/DC. The song "Let There Be Rock" is probably one of the best rock metal songs ever. But I don't know. It could be the number 1 album, but it's tough. And I put it at number 3.
Cool. All right, top 2. What do you got?
My second one is the Scorps. Great album. I didn't listen to it a lot in the 70s, and that's why it's number 2. I revisited this later on. My first exposure to the Scorpions was at Pocono Downs Jam back in 79, I think it was. And there was this crazy band that was on early, screaming and yelling, and I had no idea who they were. Found out it was the Scorpions, picked up the Love Drive record, and I was going forward, and I started going backward a little bit later. So Scorpions at number 2, and it sounds like I'm against the grain here, but the reason I'm picking Aerosmith Toys more than any of their other albums, I listened to that album more than ever. And maybe what I heard Scout talking, maybe it is an age thing, because in the 70s, the Aerosmith were one of my favorite bands. You know, right there with Sabbath and everybody else. And of course, when they hit and got that 80s sound, I was done with them also. And I mean, I love rocks. I love Toys in the Attic. Like the songs, I'm trying to find my notes here because I can't read. It's No More, No More, Round and Round. I mean, the Toys in the Attic, that song is so heavy. Like last year, I had these 2 bands playing at Quinn's, and we had these young kids come in on, it was like a Christmas Eve weekend show. And they were playing like thrash metal. So they had these older guys that do covers. They came out and they opened up with Toys in the Attic. And I said, and after I talked to them, I said, I know why you did that, because that song's so damn heavy and it's so fast. So they put that right up there against those kids that were playing like the thrash metal thing. And I don't know.
I can
That
see
was
a
my-
metal band doing that. Why not?
What's yeah,
It's a
and I
happy
mean,
song.
Toys in the Attic, they lay that down. It's such a great song. Maybe Walk This Way is played out, but I don't listen to PDH, so things don't get played out to me too easy.
True.
If you're stuck listening to something like that at work every day, or even Boneyard on Sirius, you hear the same 60
Oh my God.
songs.
Same songs all the time.
I mean, I don't have problems with XM radio, but come on, there's a second Boneyard that still plays the same songs pretty much.
And we pay for it. That's the thing that bothers me about Boneyard, is that
Mhm.
it's a subscription base, so they can play anything they want because they don't need the commercials.
Yeah.
And they play the same stuff you hear on FM radio all throughout the 80s. It's like, except for like Jim Florentine, who plays really cool stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, you're
Other than
correct.
that, it's the same. You're living after midnight and, Walk This Way, and like the same
Oh
stuff
yeah,
on radio. It's so disappointing.
Yeah.
it's like PDH.
you need the deep
It's like
cuts.
paying for PDH a little bit.
Ooh,
Right.
paying to
right.
listen to car commercials all day.
You know, if you're streaming
Oh,
like
man, I
that,
don't want to
they
do
should be
that.
playing. Yeah, they should be playing deep cuts. That's the problem. They don't
The
play those
guest,
deep cuts.
the fringe guys like Jim Florentine, he'll play like really cool new wave of British heavy metal stuff,
Yes.
really like Raven and stuff that you would never hear. And
Mhm.
he's the best one on there. But the rest of the regular guys just all play the same top 40 hard rock, and it's like, I actually emailed them a couple times saying like, I'm paying for this. Can you play something better? Like I could turn on the radio to hear Living After Midnight and Breaking the Law. Like just cut the crap already,
It's still commercial radio. It's
Yeah.
subscriber based. So
Yeah.
You know, exactly what you're bitching about regular commercial radio is no different for Sirius.
Yeah.
It's the same exact thing. We like what we like. The masses like living after midnight, and the masses are the ones that are
That
paying
is the
money.
problem, because the majority
Yeah.
of people want to hear the same things over.
You're
Yeah,
never
you're
going to
right.
win that fight. So
Unfortunately, yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with
but
Butch.
when you're paying for it, when you're paying a
But-
subscription price.
but Jim, here's the thing. Don't pay for it then.
I know. Well, I like the other stuff on Sirius.
Exactly.
So do
exactly.
I.
So they
That's
win.
why, that's
So
why I
you
have an
just lost.
iPod in my car.
We have it in my job, but I never put that station on. We always have other stuff on. You know, I ended up putting all kinds. Some of the other stations to me
they
are
have
pretty
the
good.
deep tracks channel for the classic rock stuff. They should have a deep tracks for the metal stuff as
They
well.
They should.
They do.
My
They,
wife
they
listens
do
to
have
the-
a second boneyard.
Yeah.
Do they?
Classic
I
vinyl.
don't
Oh
get
yeah,
it.
they do. There's a different one on the app, and I mean, it gets a little deeper. They might play
But
like
that's the
technical
thing.
ecstasy.
They have different things on the app than they have on
Yeah.
the fixed version in
The
your car or
radio, the
whatever.
car version, yeah.
It's
But
like
you
Rob
said,
said,
got a
put it on your
couple of guys
iPod
play
Yeah.
stuff.
For sure.
Yeah.
or on your phone, like
Yes,
I
man.
do. I mean,
What I do, man.
So interesting how when Steve joined, all of a sudden it became pretty close. So we didn't get any picks from Nick,
Oh.
Aaron, or
Nick, no.
No.
right?
and Steve, just so you know, your list was exactly the same as mine.
We have good taste, then, Butch.
Yeah. So ACDC won by 1 point.
And mine.
Yeah. So ACDC wins 4-3 against Aerosmith. So it was pretty
Wow.
close. We had a couple extra people that might have been a little different. We'll see. So
I almost was gonna go with.
Hey, there's the
Aerosmith
ACDC
one.
truck. It's going right by. Hey, you got first place, ACDC truck.
Not like they crack a Christmas Hess truck, but in Australia.
I got the super valuable Kiss gold ticket.
there you go. Does it work?
What do you mean does it work? Well, it's working for $1,000 on eBay right now.
Not
Should
gonna
I
get
sell
you in
it?
the Gene Simmons chocolate factory, Steve.
Lighten up in your car.
They were literally giving these out. A lot of people didn't get them, and then people are selling them for like
Of course they are
$1,000, $2,000. And they
trying
were
to get their
selling,
money back.
If you
they
want
were,
to pay,
se-
yeah.
they
You
were
wanna pay
selling these. They were selling these for $350 on the pay-per-view. That's what I was told. So
Who of you
hey,
guys went?
Oh, I didn't even see it on
One
the
of you
pay-per-view
guys
about
went.
that.
I was there. I was there Saturday.
Anybody else?
Chris was there on
I wouldn't have gone
Friday.
for free.
I got a ticket
It's
for
not a
220.
farewell
I
round.
got a
They'll be
ticket.
back.
I got a ticket for 220 side
Sorry.
stage at Gene, so it wasn't too bad.
Last time I
I
saw.
thought that
Kiss
gold
was
ticket thing was a
1980.
VIP thing. I didn't know they were giving that out to everybody. That's
No,
pretty
that
when
was
you were
some Willy
walking out
Wonka
the
shit.
door, they were handing
Yeah, I thought it was
out.
the VIP people only were getting them. I didn't
No,
realize. it was
no,
anybody.
Yeah, a few of my
I'm
friends got them.
surprised Gene Simmons gave anything away.
No,
Well, he didn't. You still had to spend
Oh, you're still paying for it.
$20
Oh, yeah, you
or
rolled it into the
$500 or
front.
$1,000 for a ticket.
Yeah, I saw
After-
Steve posted that picture of like what $80 t-shirts or some shit or
Somebody
long
buy all.
sleeves.
no. Well, for the long sleeve, but they were standard $50 arena, which everybody's doing pretty much 45, 50.
Every
it's like
garden
the
show.
standard.
Yeah, Maiden's pretty much the same. Yeah.
Yeah, I know the garden takes their cut. You know, so
Well, a bunch of us have a mutual friend that made that post about getting that for free. It's like you got, Steve. And I was teasing him on Facebook, and he obviously didn't get the point I was trying to make. And he got it for free. I'm like, oh, it's free, so it's free at you didn't have to make a purchase to get in to get it, huh? He's like, oh no, well, I had to get. I'm like, it's not free if you're paying $800 a ticket and they give you something on the
Exactly.
exit.
I tell you what,
It's not free.
that was the show not to buy 6 months in advance or 2 weeks in advance. That was the show.
The day
Chris
of.
Allen went Friday night. I got a call from Chris. He goes, listen, they were selling tickets for $125 Saturday afternoon.
Really?
Upper decks. Yeah. That started going down. The ticket that I got, my friend was watching. He goes, come on, Steve, meet me in the city. I was in Connecticut. So I was driving down from a Elton John pinball release party. So then I'm like, I'm kind of heading home. I don't know if I'm going. The guy's like, hey, I got a ticket for 220. You want to go? I'm like, all right, let me go. So they were selling for $2,000 a couple weeks ago or
Yeah.
a week ago. So
Crazy.
And your videos came out great, Steve. People check them out on Rock Fantasy.
Yeah, I
I
did.
did. I was watching one today. It's
I
pretty
wonder
good.
how much they're selling these little light bands for now. These little light bands was weird though, because on the way home, the show got over 11. I got in the car. I'm stuck in traffic on the West Side Highway. And at midnight, this thing starts flashing again, like I'm at the concert. It's because they were transferring over into AI. They were letting everyone know through these flashing, and it went on all night. Linda woke up in the morning. I said, "Is that thing still flashing?" She goes, "I think it was when I first got up, but it's off now." So
now they're becoming avatars.
Avatars, like ABBA's the first one to do it, I guess.
Right. I don't
I
quite
bet you,
understand that.
my prediction is this will be avatars in the Las Vegas sphere. Well, I think that's what they'll do something in Vegas with
Yeah,
this.
I agree with you 100%. I think that's where they
they had Chris Angel in the thing, and they're Vegas. They got their Monster Golf there. Who knows?
Yep.
Maybe we'll have an avatar of Ska one year.
One day we'll have an Avatar Steve. We'll go play mini golf together.
There'll be the Hudson Valley Squares and avatar for him long after we're in the spirit world.
Steve, I'm glad you joined, Steve. You want to plug Saturday show at Quinn's Pins with the
Oh yeah. Hope you guys can all make it out if you're local or viewers that are in the area. We have YY3, the Rush tribute, coming in from Long Island. I just spoke with them, did a little interview with them last night on my channel, and they're coming in. They're doing the first side of 2112 in the first set, and they're doing a second set with the first side of Hemispheres. And they were also going to do most of Exit Stage Left material from that album in between. So hope we can all make it. It's $10 at the door and cheap night out. Fun
Awesome.
night out, Middletown, New York. So
Yep.
thanks.
Pins. So
You're gonna come, Pete?
I'll be there.
Cool. Yeah, spread the word.
Yep.
I ran into a few of your fans at the Madison Square Garden. I was like, "Aren't you the guy that's on the Sea of Tranquility?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think so."
Very cool. So hopefully we'll see some folks out of Quinn's Pins in Middletown, listen to some great Rush music on Saturday nights. And next episode here on Hudson Valley Squares, of course, we're at the end of the year, so you know what that means. Our 5 favorite albums of the year. Tune in 2 weeks from today, where we'll be talking about our favorite releases of the year, and then we'll pick up in early 2024 with another album war, classic 4th albums. I've already got the albums listed. I haven't told the crew yet. We'll reveal it on the next episode, so you guys can get ready for that one. So thanks for watching. Visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together, all the damn time.
All the damn time.
With Steve Keeler, Count Ralphus, Ryan Scow, Butch Jones, Craig Kaminsky, Rob Lasante, and our special guest tonight, Jim Bakke. Thanks for watching the Hudson Valley Squares. I'm Pete Pardo. We'll see you soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Yes.